Rapid fire. Margaret and Tracy. Woohoo! Okay, Margaret,
Yes.
are you ready?
Bring it. Let's do it.
Okay, I am going to count you down from 5. You got 25 questions, rapid fire. You answer them as fast as you can. If you can't, you go past. Cool?
Got it.
All right, okay.
Let's
I'm
do
gonna
it.
count us down.
Let's
We're
do
gonna
it.
get started. 5,
Okay.
4, 3, 2, 1. Is your bed made right now?
Yes.
If you could afford any car, which one would you drive?
Lamborghini.
Have you ever written a song for someone?
No.
What is the last craft you made?
Journal.
What is the one thing you regret spending money on?
A course.
What movie do you enjoy quoting the most?
Oh. Pretty Woman.
If you could be transformed into one animal, which one would you choose?
White tiger.
Who is your hero?
My grandmother.
Where did you go on your last vacation?
Last vacation. Cottage.
What is your favorite pastime?
Traveling.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Science.
Where did you grow up?
Acton, Ontario.
Where do you live now?
Ottawa, Ontario.
What is your favorite body part?
My eyes.
What is your favorite word in another language?
Je t'aime.
What is your favorite dessert?
Oh, anything chocolate.
What is your favorite breakfast?
Eggs and bacon.
If you had to change your first name, what would it be?
Catherine with a K.
Street smarts or book smarts?
Book smarts.
Learn by watching or learn by doing?
Oh, doing.
Fresh food or fried food?
Fresh.
Are you more cautious or bold?
Bold.
Cannonball into the pool or dip a toe in first?
Oh, cannonball.
Would you rather sleep in late or take a long nap midday?
Sleep in late.
What makes you hopeful?
My daughter.
Woo! Rapid fire! Beautiful. So good. I love this. I got to learn more about you in literally 25 questions. This is awesome. Thank you for being such a great sport. You're amazing. I just adore you. Awesome, awesome. Woohoo!
Just kidding. I'm not muted.
Oh my gosh, we literally need bloopers. Like if people, you know what's so funny? If people knew what was going on behind, right? So like the chat, like I can see something in there now. The chat, like there's all fun things happening behind the scenes in the chat. It's like, yeah, go, you're my this, you're my that. Like this is the stuff that really, like to me, is like just making all of this just mesh and work, right? So when we do what? It's built like we're building this like cool like energy behind the scenes.
It's so fun. Archer, who's one of our producers for the show here, he just wrote in the chat, "You scared me because I've done it like 3 times already." That was for you, Archer.
I want to do a shout out right now, actually, and I'm going to do multiple of these, but yes. I had to make a very big decision very close to this event happening because I didn't realize that I was the one that would have to make all of this stuff look like it does. And I'm like, pardon? Okay, there are some things you need to know. You can get out of your damn way as long as it's something that lights you up. And that stuff would have dropped my vibe, created stress, so I couldn't show up this way. So I had the blessing to connect with this amazing company called Podplant. And Mike and Archer are in the background. You don't see them. Oh, I love you. And literally, like, they are freaking awesome. They're giving us the confidence to do what we're doing. They're making it fun for us. We feel held. We feel supported. And I just want to shout out to Podplant.
Mike and Archer!
Woo! They will rock your freaking podcast or whatever you want to do. They're the broadcasting people that have, I don't know, I think 35 plus years in the business. So freaking Podplant, look them up. And we're going to drop links in here so you guys can know who they are because seriously, like I could look like that if it wasn't for them.
I'll just never let anyone forget them. So
no.
Yes. Well,
how are we doing? Like I'm making people cry now.
I know. Well, this is the huge. This is the huge. If you spend long enough with Tracy, she just bores into your soul, and eventually you're going to start crying. So it was bound to happen. It will happen again.
How powerful were these sessions? These power sessions were powerful. Like, I'm just like, wow. I'm like, wow. And I know we're headed in for 2 more powerhouse women. And this woman, her and I connected on a deep level because she has a love for children too, for girls. And I know that her and I are going to do something big one day when it comes to the camp I want to create. She's rocking out, supporting girls with summertime programs and camps. Like, thank God he just knows how to bring the right people together, right? So introduce this powerful soul.
Let's do it. Let's introduce Margaret.
Do it.
Margaret Dennis, the CEO of Evolve Coaching and co-founder of Unshakable Me summer camps for teenage girls, will lead us in Becoming Unshakable, a journey from fear to empowerment. Margaret transformed her grief into a global mission to empower women to rediscover joy and become unshakable. A TEDx speaker and educator, she's turned adversities into a call to action, guiding individuals from a place of loss to one of profound strength and resilience. Let's give a warm welcome to Margaret!
Woo-woo!
Hello.
Yeah! Margaret!
Hey.
How freaking awesome is this day?
It's incredible. It seems like we just started it yesterday, but it's gone by really fast.
I know.
It's great.
We've been talking about this for 4 months now. And you were one of the first people to be a hell yes when we started.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was no question. I fell in love with the name of the summit. So I was like, yep, got to do it.
Right? Oh my God. So right. And let's just go there for a minute. Let's talk about like your biggest get out of her damn way moment that's really helped you catapult to all of these amazing things that you create and you're creating even better and more of. Let's talk about that.
Sure. I think for me, this is like my yes year. I'm saying yes to everything. And I'm actually really leaning into my intuition. What does it feel good to do? I did some coaching with my fellow coaches a while back, and I was like, hey, I'm getting involved in a whole bunch of things, but I need to be able to figure out what, like kind of what Tanya talked about before is like, does it align with your values? You know, what are you doing? Make sure that you're doing the things that really light you up. And my number one thing for anything that I choose to do is it has to be fun. If I don't enjoy it, I won't do it. I won't put passion or time into it. I'll drag my feet, I'll procrastinate. And for me, speaking on a stage is like the ultimate fun. I love speaking. Anyone who's known me ever in my life knows that I love to talk. And I'm sure a lot of them are giggling right now. But I enjoy sharing knowledge and sharing information and being out there. And so when this came up, not only did I love the name of it, but I loved what you stood for. And I love the fact that we connected on the teen girl level, that there was a lot of alignment with what we were doing. So yeah, for me, it was a hell yes, right from the beginning.
That's amazing. That's so good. So beautiful. I love all that. And you know, you work with people, and I love like what you do is big stuff, like helping people move through grief and creating resilience to that experience. Like, how does that even work? Because, you know, I know, I would say the last big thing that I experienced, well, we lost our dog, you know, just about a month ago now. And that was big. But before that was my best friend to cancer. And so how do we just make like, how do you do that? How do you move through grief and create resilience?
I think the biggest thing you can do when you're moving through grief is actually connection with other people, connection with your family, connection with your loved ones. And so often when we're in our grief, we retreat, right? We go into ourselves, we hibernate, we don't reach out for help, usually because we don't know what we need, which is very normal, right? Our grief brain kicks in. We go into like, I just have to get through the next hour, the next day, the whatever. And depending on the type of grief too, because there's so many different types of grief, which a lot of people are unaware of, that they've even experienced grief. But with grief, it's a journey, right? It's something that when you've experienced grief, it lives with you forever. It is never something that you get over. It isn't ever something that, you can just put a Band-Aid over it and hope it'll go away. A lot of the way our North American society teaches us is like, here you go, you get 3 days, go grieve, and then we want you back in the office. And everyone around you wants you to go back into being the exact same person that you were before. And you're not, because grief changes you. And so for someone who's going through grief, a lot of the time they feel alone. And then you have all the people around you who are trying to be so supportive, and they really, God love them, they are. But we don't teach people how to support those in grief either. So we say all the wrong things. We'll say things to someone who's grieving like, oh, you're so brave. You're going to get through this. Be strong. But we realize what they don't realize is they're saying that for them. They're not saying it for the person who's grieving. Because I'll tell you, for me, when I've been in the depths of grief, the last thing I wanted to do was be brave or strong. I really wanted to go find a corner, curl up and cry, and just have somebody take care of me. But that wasn't possible when things happened for me because, well, they just weren't at that time. And so you go on and you have these societal expectations that you still have to, chin up, buddy, just keep going. And so when we find people who are still grieving 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, a year later, decades later, we don't, as a society, don't know how to help people. So what I do in my practice with the women that I coach who've been through trauma and grief is we get in touch with the feelings that they've been burying for so long. Because if you don't acknowledge how you feel and you don't allow yourself the time and give yourself the permission to feel what you're feeling, it's just going to keep building up inside your body, because your body holds on to every experience, every emotion that you have ever had. And so over time, all these little grief events and some of the big catastrophic ones, if you're not expressing them and releasing these emotions, they just build up like a pressure cooker. And so you find when you get into your 40s, 50s, 60s, you're like suffering from depression, anxiety, I can't sleep, have trouble making decisions. All these things start creeping up and you're like, I don't understand where it's coming from. A really big contributing factor could be grief. So what I do in the sessions with the women that I work with is really dive into giving them permission to feel, giving them a safe space to be vulnerable, giving them permission to feel whatever they feel, because a lot of the times we judge ourselves on how we feel, right? So say we were with someone who had gone through a really long bout of cancer and then passed away. We could actually feel a sense of relief.
And feel shame around that, maybe even.
And then feel shame and guilt around that. Exactly. Because you definitely wouldn't turn to someone and say, oh my God, I'm so relieved. Their suffering is over. But it's relief for both of you. It's not just the person who's passed, it's you as well. But we aren't allowed to say that. And so we keep it to ourselves and we shame ourselves for feeling the feelings that we have. And there's so much more that comes up in grief than just sadness, right? There's anger, resentment, shame, guilt, relief, you name it, it's in there. And so by working on actually releasing those, you give space for people to start to feel something other than sadness, other than anger. You start to, it feels lighter. It opens up the door for people to bring some more joy into their lives. And we work on the fact that it's okay to feel joy. So that's a really big factor too. If somebody loses a spouse or a child or a parent, sometimes we feel like I don't deserve to be happy because they're gone.
Yes.
And so even then we push down the joy. We push down the idea of being happy, again, out of guilt. And that's so not the way it's supposed to be. We were put on this earth to be happy, and things are going to happen, but how we deal with them is so important.
Yeah. Wow. So powerful. And I think like when we're going through any kind of grief, we want to create, everyone's like, you want to create distractions for yourself, not to think about it. And that, isn't going to serve you in the long run, because that's unexpressed emotions. And then it just gets stored in your body, right? They talk about, the last place that disease shows up is actually in the body. And I'm sure you've seen that with a lot of your clients, that their physical, symptoms are coming a lot of times from grief, right? And I think you said something really important too. And I'm curious, so how do we support someone going through grief? Because we aren't coached either. Like, how do we do that?
So supporting someone with grief is ultimately comes down to actually being there for them. And when you say to someone, I'm so sorry for your loss, leave it at that. Don't say to someone, I know exactly how you feel, because you don't. You absolutely don't. Grief is a very unique experience. We may have both have experienced the loss of a spouse, but how I dealt with it and how you deal with it would be very different, because we have all these different memories and experiences that
Yeah.
come along with
Yeah.
that. So if you want to support someone in grief effectively, be there for them. Be there without judgment is a really big one. Don't judge how they feel. Don't judge how they're expressing their grief. Let them grieve in a way that is what they need to do.
Yeah.
And when you say you're going to be there, like show up at their house. Make sure they're not still in their pajamas from 2 weeks ago and that they've had a shower. Bring them some food. Because so often what happens, especially when we lose someone. So it's like we're in survival mode for the first few days. We plan the funeral. We go to the funeral. We make it through. I mean, when people say like, I just feel like I walked through a daze, you did. Your grief brain was keeping you on track just to survive those days. And then a couple of weeks go by and you're now relaxed to really feel the grief, but everybody else around you has moved on. And so again, you're alone. And so being with somebody and allowing them to just, if they want to cry, let them cry. If they want to just sit there with you and not say anything, let them do that too. And one of the biggest things is if they'll let you, give them a hug. And if you can hug, a friend of mine, Risa, teaches about healthy touch. And I learned this summer that if you hug for 30 seconds, that's when growth starts to happen. That's when healing starts to happen, because you start to release all these oxytocin and the good hormones in your body. And people need that connection. A hug is an amazing way to connect with someone. So if they will let you, you need to ask permission, because a lot of people still, they retreat. They're afraid that if they hug, they will lose their emotions. They will start to cry and then they won't stop. I will tell you that you will. You may end up falling asleep while you're crying, but you will stop. When toddlers cry and they cry really, really, really hard, and then at the end they get to the, you will do that too. You will do that too. So it's really, when someone's going through grief, just allow them to be who they need to be in that moment and let them express whatever they are feeling without judgment. That's the biggest part. Don't judge somebody how they grieve or how they move on.
Yeah.
That's another big part. We judge how people move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it keeps them stuck.
It's really, really powerful. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy I know we spoke about this, because I know like everyone has someone that, they know, or they're maybe experiencing it themselves. And I think that, this kind of information allows us to reflect upon ourselves and how we're showing up. And also just go introspective and be like, why am I so uncomfortable? And why do I want to approach it this way? And we so much opportunity to learn and grow within any kind of experience like that, right? That can be looked upon as something that's just so tragic, but there is beauty in everything. There is beauty in everything.
There is, but I think biologically we're wired to run away from grief because we see it as a threat.
Yeah.
So, we see someone grieving and we're like, oh no, I can't have that touch me. So you back away, right? And our fight or flight kicks in. And we're like, oh, so that's why we say to people, be brave, be strong. Because if I tell you to be brave and strong and you are, it means the grief can't touch me. And so a lot of the time we move away from people without even realizing we're moving away. It can be a very unconscious mover, but it's our fight or flight response that kicks in.
What got you to doing this? What happened? What's your story? Like, how did you become someone? I mean, I know we're going to go into the unshakable me and all that, which is just so beautiful. And I never know how these conversations are going to go, because I just really follow my intuition. And I think, we're both being guided together, which is why it's so beautiful. But can you share like what it is that's the story that brought you to doing this in the first place, Margaret?
Well, it started about 15 years ago. I was pregnant with twins, and we'd had 6 years of infertility. So these twins were a gift for us. And I ended up going into labor really early at 5.5 months and had the twins. I had a boy and a girl. and our son was very, very sick, and he passed away 3 days after the twins were born. His name was Isaac. And my daughter Lily was the strong one, and she survived, and she is just the most incredible, incredible kid. And so growing up with her, I guess in that moment, right? So I'm a new mom. I have a child who's passed away and a child who has survived, who's in the neonatal intensive care unit, struggling to survive herself. And so you have to make a choice. It's like, I can love my daughter or I can grieve my son. And so it came down to, I'm going to love my daughter right now because she needs me. And I just buried the grief because I'm like, I can't deal with this right now. Like, if I gave into the grief, I thought I wouldn't be able to be the mom I needed to be. And so, our daughter was in the hospital for 6.5 months. We finally brought her home, the size of a newborn. She was about 5.5 pounds when we brought her home, on oxygen and tube feeding. And so there was a lot of support that she needed. And so my life for the first, her life for the first 4 years was a lot of hospital visits. And so I dove into that. But I never lied to her about her brother. I thought, she's a twin. Twins know they have a connection. And so I was talking to her about Isaac while I was feeding her when she was an infant. And so she grew up knowing about him. And then as she got older and understood it, and really understood that he had died, her grieving process started. And so it was answering her questions, crying with her, talking about where did he go and what is he doing? And so we started doing that. And I thought, great, I can talk about him now. I still cry. Things on the radio make me cry, but I'm okay. I think I've grieved. I'm good. I'm moving on. And then in 2021, I had the opportunity to do a TED Talk. And I had always wanted to tell the story about what had happened because I thought it could help somebody else. And so I started writing my TED Talk. And as I was writing it, the tears just started to come. And I realized I hadn't dealt with my grief very well at all, because I could not write or say my speech without breaking down. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to say my speech. Like, how am I going to do this? This is like my bucket list moment. I need to be able to do this. So I worked with my cousin who does EFT, and she helped me sort of just get some things in place so that I could do my speech. But I wrote about my daughter's experience in grief and why she as a child knew how to grieve better than we do as adults, right? When she was sad, she cried. When she had questions, she asked about them. And when people asked her if she had siblings, she was very honest and said, I had a brother, but he died. And so she used the grief as a way her life was. And I watched how she integrated that into her life, and she became an extremely strong young girl. And I thought, we as adults suck at how we deal with our grief. We don't allow as people as adults to grieve. So, when I did my speech, I talked about the difference about telling people that you're sad versus telling people that you're stressed. If someone came into your office and said, oh my God, I'm so stressed, you'd be like, oh man, me too. Like, it's just horrible. Workload crazy. Right. And we give people this badge of honor, like, ooh, high five, you're stressed. Must mean,
like, you must be awesome if you're stressed. I know. It's crazy.
Exactly. And then, but if I walked into your office and you said, hey, Margaret, how are you doing? And I said, Tracy, you know what? I'm so sad today because I'm really missing my son. Blank headlights. You'd be like, dear, backing up. People don't know how to deal with that.
Wow.
And so when I did my speech and did a lot of research into grief and how we deal with it, it really put a fire in my belly. I'm like, I am not the only person out here in this world who has experienced the fact that I haven't dealt with grief. And I had a lot of support around me. Don't get me wrong. I had a beautiful family and friends that were very, very supportive for everything that we went through. But I wanted to get out into the world and start educating people and letting them know, like, there's a different way of doing this and we need to support people better. And so I started with doing workshops and educating. And I did hesitate on going into coaching, I'll be honest, because I thought, not coaching in general, but coaching women going through grief, because I thought, I'm a very empathic person. I take on everybody's emotions. I have learned not to, but I thought, if I do this, it's going to be too heavy for me and I couldn't be the coach I needed to be for them. But the exact opposite happened. When I started coaching women through their grief, it was incredible to watch their metamorphosis when they finally had someone to listen to them, someone that they could share their deepest emotions with, someone that they could cry with and be very 100% raw, honest. And so working with them after 3 months, they were a completely different person. They come to the sessions with a twinkle in their eye and a smile, and they would say, you know what I did today? I smiled for the first time, or I did. And you see the progress. And it was just, for me, it's just so incredibly rewarding to be able to be that person for them. So that was my journey to get me to where I am today.
Journey, right? And I love that was a massive journey. And you couldn't have even known when that experience happened with your twins that was the journey that you were going to go on.
No.
I think we need to appreciate that on a very deep level, because we just have this desire to control everything that's going to happen. Let that go, because it's not available to you. Control actually isn't even available to you.
No.
It exists in your brain, and it's actually screwing with you. So you got to just let that go and let in, right? And let in is like letting in, you trusting yourself that, you can ask. I love what you said. You said when your daughter was sad, she cried. A question she asked. Like the things that are so simple, that are so transformative and are things that can stick. It's just amazing, like, oh my gosh, this is so, so beautiful. I think that grief is a life skill that we need to learn.
We do. We really, really do. And we need to teach people.
We need to learn. Yeah.
We're all going to go through it. Grief is not, it's not selective. It's like every single person on the planet is going to experience grief on one way, shape, or form. Maybe it's that you fail your driver's test, and maybe it's you lose your house to a fire. Maybe it's your spouse dies. Like there are so many different forms of grief that are on a continuum. But one thing I always, always tell my clients is what you're going through is your 100%. And what I go through is my 100%. And so I think a lot of us, when we're in grief, if it's not your typical grief, like I lost the promotion, or I didn't get to go on the trip that I wanted. And there's always those little bits of grief that come along. And then you have a neighbor whose dog died or that lost a child. You'll be like, well, I'm sad, but it's not as bad as them. And then you discount your own grief. You discount your own feelings, and that's when they get pushed down. Instead of saying, you know what, they're experiencing their 100%, and this is my 100%.
Wow.
And giving yourself that permission to feel what you feel in that moment. And I know I did it when I was in the hospital with my daughter. I would look around and I'm like, wow, she is, she's super stable. She's doing great. And because there were other kids in the hospital that weren't doing as well as she was. And when another child died in the unit, I was like, oh, I'm so grateful for my daughter. And I would feel like I couldn't be as sad about what was happening with me because they had lost their only child. I'd only lost one. Like it was, you start putting yourself on this comparison. Part of it is survival in the grief. But the other part is discounting the feelings because it's scary to feel them. It's really scary to feel them because you do feel like they are so much more powerful than you.
Yeah. You know what's crazy too? I'm hearing you say all this. I've had so many losses in my life. I lost both my parents when I was very young. And I remember meeting with a grief counselor and she's like, you've never even processed any of this. And she was right. I hadn't. And I still know there's lots of work to do, a lot of work to do. But we actually are set up to compare ourselves with other people. Like, well, it could be a lot worse. You're lucky. It's, it could be way worse. Like other people have it way worse than you. So buckle up, suck it up, and move on. And I literally used to say that to myself. I think I used to say that to other people. And now I'm sitting here talking about this. I'm just like, whoa. And this is what awareness does. Awareness gives us something that we can take that is tangible and put it, because we can bring it into our own lives and make it tangible. And a tangible is really us taking an idea and bringing it into something that we can execute in a way that has an impact in our lives and will deliver a different result in some way. And that was really, really powerful. Woo! I was like, drop the mic moments happening today, people.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I want to talk about this whole unshakable conversation. Okay.
Yes.
Unshakable. So I kind of see like I feel like there's just been weaving of this conversation throughout, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
Shay talked about it this morning with the foundation. And I know for me, like building that unstoppable attitude is really important. And it all works together because if we're shaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's good reasons why we get shaken because it's a chance to see where we have work to do. But
Mm-hmm.
the more we can create that unshakable foundation, the better we can handle things like grief, things like all
Mm-hmm.
these different things from a place of like gratitude and peace and love and all of that. So let's talk about unshakable. What is that all about?
Okay. Well, it happened this year. It was a brainchild that I had, and then a colleague of mine jumped on board really quickly too. So between the two of us, we've created this unshakable movement, I guess you want to say. So what it stemmed from is with the women that I work with, a lot of the time when we're processing the emotions so that we can then start moving forward, we go back and we do some emotional transcendence work, and we go back into like, where is that emotion coming from? And a lot of time the ahas were like, "Ooh, my childhood. Oh, when I was a teenager." And I started thinking like, I teach at a women's retreat and we do all kinds of emotional work. It's amazing. The Soulful Camp, highly recommended. Heather and Jenny are
Mm,
incredible.
mm.
And I thought, what if we took their kind of idea of working on the emotional side and applied it to teenage girls? Because you could not pay me enough to go back to be a teenage girl. No way, no how. And it's a really challenging time for our girls and guys too, not discounting the boys, but I'm working with the girls. And so when you think about being a girl, Tracy, I'm sure you can attest to this, and every other woman on this summit can. We are controlled by our hormones. We are controlled by our emotions. We are an emotional being. And when we hit puberty and get into our teenage years, we're crazy. Like within 5 minutes, we can go from anger to sadness to starving to laughing. And people look at you and they're like, "Oh my God, where did you come from? And who are you now?" Right? Like you're multiple personalities within a minute. And
Yeah.
so what my colleague Leah and I wanted to do was to create a camp for teenage girls to come to, and we called it Unshakable Me, where they could come and learn how to make friends with their emotions, how to create learning tools that will support them now and as they move forward. But most importantly, to teach them to look within for validation about who they are. Because we know growing up, our friendship groups and the people around us are it, right? And if people don't like me or they say something mean or they bully me, it's devastating. And I think it's something wrong with me. And my self-esteem and self-confidence and self-worth goes into the toilet, right? That's how it works. And as much as we have amazing parental support, a lot of us do, the parents are great, but they're not our peers. And so when we're in school all the time and we're with our friends, and we're not being treated well, or we get told, "Oh my God, you're so clumsy." And sometimes it's from family, "You're clumsy, you don't be so
Mhm,
loud,
mhm.
you quiet, quiet, quiet." Like we
All
get
those the
hushed a lot.
labels like we've
All
worn since
those
we were little,
it,
right? You're such a good
exactly. And
girl. You're so sweet. You're so funny. You're so this, thinking it's like not a big deal, but those labels stick.
they do. They do. And what happens is we create our identity from it. And then we start to think that something's wrong with us because people were telling us negative things about ourselves. And so
Yeah.
a big focus of the camp, sorry, my nose is really itchy. I have a cold. Um, a big focus of the camp is to teach the girls that they're unique and they are amazing just because they're here. And they
Mhm.
are and teaching them how to identify their emotions, right? We have an emotion wheel that we give them that's got like hundreds of emotions on it. And it's like, okay, if you're sad, look on the emotion wheel. What other word in there describes how you're feeling even
Yeah.
better? Are you
Yeah.
disappointed? Are you frustrated? What's underneath that? Because if we can teach our girls to identify the emotions, then they can actually express them
Mhm.
and they can learn how to deal with them more effectively. And in the process, learn that they're a good person, believe that they're a good person. So we have amazing guest facilitators come in that help work with the girls as well. And Leah and I do a lot. We focus on play and fun and connecting to the inner child. So we do the Unshakable Me camps, and we did 2 this year that were just amazing. And we had so much support from the community. And we're looking at doing 4 or more next year. Really, really exciting about it. On top of that, though, we've also created Unshakable Us. And Unshakable Us is for mothers and daughters. And it's to help them heal communication or build communication and connection. And because sometimes it's our moms, right? When we're daughters, we look up to our moms. And our moms may not have had the best childhood either. So how do we help them heal so they can work with their daughters too? So it's a lot of building that connection and support and teaching them that we're all human, right?
Oh my goodness, amazing. Wow, it's really beautiful. I connect with everything, obviously, that you're saying on a very soulful level, you know, and you know, we aren't being supported at a young age the way we need to be supported. And again, it's not because of our parents. It's not because of maybe you don't have parents and it's influencers in your life, whatever it is. Everyone's doing the best they can. And when we come together as women who've had the experiences, who have the desire, who know that this is a space that is really needed, and the impact is going to be so huge for what's to come for these girls and how that impacts the ripple effect of the world. Like really, literally, it's like, it might seem like go to this camp, but that camp can go right. And like, I know for me creating my camp, this is like massive. And a big part for me is because I didn't have a mom growing up. I want to bring moms who didn't have daughters or couldn't have daughters and bring them together, right? And really start to create beautiful opportunities for women to just, and girls to share love, to learn how to love, to learn about themselves and a different part of themselves. And I think, you know, everything we do is just about learning more about who we really are.
100%. It really is. And I think it can be really scary to dig into who we are. Especially if we really have a poor self-image and self-esteem. We're like, why would I bother? I'm not worth looking into, right? There's that. And a lot of people start at that place, and it is 100% worth it, because underneath all of it, underneath all the things that you've told yourself and all the things you've let yourself believe, you are an incredible person with so much to offer the world, and you are unique in and of yourself, and the world needs you. The world needs you to be you. There's no one else on the planet like you.
No.
And so it is so worth doing the work to let that crap go and step into your power and be that woman that you were meant to be, or be that girl you were meant to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, every day can be your new day one.
Oh yeah.
Like, and even if you're on the road to something great, make every day your new day one, because it puts you in a beginner's mindset as well. And I think that's really important too. I mean, it's important for me even as a coach, because I want to meet everyone where they are. And if you're a woman right now watching this and you're looking for support when it comes to grief, like, I hope you've been taking notes. I certainly have, because I think whether you're going through it or you're supporting, or you just know, eventually you will be experiencing it. These are life skills. And, you know, really understanding too, if you're just at a crossroads, or you're like, I don't know, like, I just know, like, life has to be better than it is right now, or I know that there's something I'm supposed to do that isn't what I'm doing right now, that you're not alone. And today's can be your day one. It can be your day one. And I think it comes back to ask, express your emotions, and know that that's actually part of stepping into your power, stepping into empowerment. Right? You have to be able to do that, and do it in silence if you need to. Just do it wherever you can feel comfortable right now. Just do it.
Right. Yeah. We're so afraid to try to express our emotions, but it really is empowering when you release them. They don't control you anymore. They'll still come up. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like one cry and you're done. Your journey in grief especially is a lifetime journey. But as you allow those emotions to come up, you step into your power. And when they come up again, you're like, okay, I can handle this. I can handle this.
Yes.
This is good.
Yes, absolutely. So, Amazing. Thank you. I know you're not feeling great today, and you showed up and you shined. I'm so grateful for you. And I just love, love, love the synergies we have together. Becoming Unshakable, a journey from fear to empowerment. You rock this. You're amazing. And I just can't wait to hear more about what's to come for you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Tracy, for having me. And thank you for putting this on. This has been an incredible opportunity and an incredible event. So thank you very much. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.